All right, our next guest. Welcome to the AFC podcast, Mr. Christian Barnes. What's going on?
Thank you for having me. Not much, just winding down after work.
Oh, what do you do?
Right now, I'm a teaching assistant with special needs kids. I work with the preschool age.
Oh, okay. You here in the Queens area?
I am.
Oh, all righty. How long you lived in Queens?
Oh, my whole life. I was born in Glendale, and then I moved over to Maspeth. So I'm not very far from where I was, where my upbringing was. And then my work is actually in Queens as well. It's in Middle Village on Metropolitan Avenue.
I really like Middle Village.
It's a quaint little town. It really is.
It is. It's its own. It is. It's its own little, like a little town in a city.
Yeah, I mean, I walk to work every day. It takes about maybe on a good day, maybe a half hour, sometimes 40 minutes, depending on people on the sidewalk and traffic and whatnot.
Oh, you don't use a bike or electric scooter or anything?
No, that's my exercise for the day because I don't really have a gym membership or anything. So it's nice to just get out and be in the elements. And I walk to and from work every day. So that's I want to say it's about maybe a mile and a half each way.
All right, so you got to get your steps in for the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, how long have you been a teacher?
About 5 years. I worked at another school in Manhattan, and the age range was a lot higher. I was working with young adults. Their disabilities were more apparent. I'll put it that way. But they were young adults from 16 to 21. They aged out of the program at 21. But the school went as low as 3-year-olds. And I did that for 5 years. That was kind of a fluke thing because before I was working in a school, I had gone to school for drama and history. I had done a dual major. I wanted to be an actor initially, and then I was like, I need a fallback in case the acting thing doesn't work out. I like history. I'll go for that. And I had a job for about 4 years at Radio City Music Hall. I was a tour guide.
No way.
Oh yeah, it was one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life. I'm kind of sad I had to leave, but it was just for me, there wasn't a lot of room for growth in the tour department.
Oh, but that being said, like as I guess as a tour guide, what do you know about the plans they had to tear it down back in the 70s?
It was saved in the 11th hour. It was in rapid disrepair. It was the walls inside the theater were blackened from all the years of cigarette and cigar smoke. It was just like it just had such neglect that nobody saw the point in saving it. But there were a group of people who got wind of it, and they like I said, they banded together at the last minute to step in and save it.
So it was my understanding, like it was actually owned by the Rockefellers at the time.
He spearheaded the project. Yeah, he had funded it, but the man who had run it initially was a man by Samuel Lionel Rothafel, not to be mistaken with the Rockefellers. It's okay. Rothfel, Rothafel. Well, Rothafel, Rothafel. But he went by the name of Roxy, and he was a I forgot what the name. What was the word for it? I forget the name for it, but he put shows together. It wasn't a producer. He put impresario. That was the name. He was an impresario, and he was touring the country, and he saw this dance group, the Missouri Rockets, they were called at the time, and that would eventually become the Radio City Rockettes.
Oh, really? That's how it all began out in Missouri, and then they came over here.
Yeah, I forget the name of the dance troupe. It's been a while since I did the script, but it was the St. Louis Rockettes. It wasn't called the Rockettes. It was the Rockets, like a space rocket. But he feminized it to the Rockettes when they came to New York City, and he actually elongated the dance troupe. They were like, they were like 16 girls or something like that. And with his vision for Radio City, it was at the time the biggest stage in the world. And he didn't think that 16 ladies was impressive enough, so he elongated it to 36. Just
to kind of fill in the stage a little bit
more?
Fill in
the stage, yep. And what's interesting about the stage, too, is that the hydraulics, I don't know if you've ever seen the Christmas show or anything there at Radio City.
Yeah, I have. I love it.
So you know how the stage moves. It's got the turntable in the middle, and
now comes forward, can go down, full
all
rotation.
Original technology to 1932 when it opened.
That I did not know. That's
If
That's
you
all.
catch the tour at the right time, you can go underneath the stage, but because it is an active production area, when they do a show like the Radio City Christmas Spectacular, they need the underside of the stage for storage of set pieces. And like the ice skating rink is actually in two halves. They put each half on either side of the stage, but they store it underneath.
Gotcha. And then they somehow are managed to like freeze it right before they go up. And
It's not real ice. It's like some sort of like synthetic material that acts as ice, but they did that so it wouldn't have to melt or worry about like keeping it chilled or anything like that. What is interesting though is that they kept live animals under the stage during the Christmas show.
all the camels, the sheep, they're all hanging out downstairs.
The camels actually got the better accommodations. They got like dressing room, if you will, off the stage door on the main level. The donkey and the sheep, yeah, they were underneath the stage. And there's this big tunnel that all the employees, performers, front of house staff, they would all take that tunnel, and they had a popcorn machine right at the mouth of that tunnel inside of the theater. And you would get this mixture of popcorn and animal leavings as you came into the building. It's a very hard scent to describe, but it's a nostalgic smell for me. Like you don't really smell it anywhere else. So I immediately think of my time at Radio City, which I have so many memories of working there that were, it was an amazing work experience. It really was.
Have you ever heard the story of Rosie Novellino?
No, I haven't.
I actually, I'll share with you in the chat. Long story short, the group of people that actually saved Radio City Music Hall during the 1970s was actually headed by Rosie herself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was really good friends before he passed away with her baby brother, who died at maybe 80 years old. He died at just old age, June 2021. And we would talk constantly about anything to do with acting, best neighbor you could ever ask for in your life. But I got to meet his sister on many occasions, coming up for the holidays over a decade. And we just like got to know each other mildly. But then she published a book on, I guess, on the dancer's journey on how she saved Radio City Music Hall, which was like, I didn't get to even start the book, but I've been trying to like get my hands on the script about how she actually did do it. They were kind of right after the Jackie Onassis film came out. It turns out during, I think, right around that time, Carnegie Hall, Grand Central Station, as well as Radio City were all in line to be absolutely just wiped out, demolished, no more use for them. Put a hotel or something on top of it, and that would be that. So it turns out, I didn't know it at the time until Rosie told me her story, is that Jackie Onassis kind of spearheaded the movement to protect and preserve Grand Central Station.
Now that you're mentioning Jackie Onassis, I do remember that detail, but not much else. Like I wasn't given the finer details of how Radio City was saved, just that it was at the last possible minute. It was definitely the 11th hour.
Just going back from memory, it really, she actually was able to like get just the right amount of support. Because like you described, like that was the best job you ever had. There were a lot of people over the course of the 50s and 60s and part of the 40s where they feel the exact same way, and their careers blossomed into politics, into news broadcasting, union workers, all of these little facts and details. And once they all got wind that this theater is in trouble, here we are. They all somehow managed to coordinate at the Hilton. That was, I think, right across the street.
Yeah.
And, they pretty much had a headquarters. Long, amazing story short, Radio City still stands. But Rosie, on the other hand, she got blacklisted immediately after that.
Insane.
She was the captain of the Rockettes.
Oh, really? Was she?
Yeah. I think her career, it was like, I think she was like right around mid-30s when all this was taking place, but like she actually did ballet and performed in the Nutcracker since she was 5. So she was always in the mix.
Yeah, there was a couple of Rockettes that because you get to meet them on the tour. So some of them have been in show business their whole, or had been dancing their whole life at least. Done productions like of the Nutcracker. So that's a common thread that I've heard from many of their backgrounds.
I wish I got to take that tour because I did buy the tickets with my wife and I. That it was like a 7 o'clock show, or it was the last show of the night, and we booked the package where you get a show and a tour. It didn't say it in the details, but touring stopped after 7 o'clock, and I'm like, oh damn it! Well, he sold me the ticket and I couldn't redeem it, so I still I think I still have them in one of my jacket pockets.
The tour is still going on. In fact, they just reinstated it post COVID a couple months ago. Their reinitiation, if you will, was back in Christmas. The Christmas season, they brought it back. I, however, would recommend, if you do take the tour, to do it in the spring or early summer when they're not having a major production, because they do other things besides the Christmas spectacular. They had America's Got Talent, which took over the entire theater, like the front of house, everything. So there wasn't a lot to see when they were guests at the theater, but when you catch it just right in between productions, you can go at least underneath the stage. On a blue moon, stars aligned, you can get onto the stage, but we were told never to guarantee that. But I have actually stood on that stage with a tour group many times.
I can't even imagine. Like you probably can't tell, but I'm actually 70 pounds heavier than I was a year ago. And not to bring it up, but my dream has always been to play Santa at Radio City.
And I got to know the understudy Santa too. He was a sweetheart of a guy. He was very down to earth, very chill. And I got to meet the Santa. If you're a New Yorker and you've gone to see the Christmas Spectacular, you know who I'm talking about. His name is Charles Edward Hall. And I've met him on one occasion too. And I actually have an autographed book from him. He did a semi-autobiographical account of his time as Santa.
Oh my gosh.
And it's called Santa is for Real. And it talks about his, relation with the real Santa Claus and the advice that he would give him, kind of thing. But it talked about his getting into how he got into the role sort of thing. And it was fascinating because he had played Scrooge in the Christmas Spectacular, and they thought it would be funny to have the guy who does Scrooge also be Santa, have this dichotomy. And the rest is history. He just took off with the Santa role. He was just natural in it.
If it is the exact same Santa, because I never knew his name, Mr. Hall, but it was the same Santa back in 2000. I went in 2007 to 16, Christmas 2016, but right before that, I think it was 2000, either 11 or 12, and I'm almost 100% sure it was the same actor. It sounded identical.
It probably was because he started in the mid to late 80s. I forget the exact year, but he was, since the 80s, he's been Santa.
No kidding.
Yeah. And what's mind-boggling to me is this was his retirement year. And I was a huge fan. I went to see the Christmas show on Christmas Eve this year. And I was like, oh, good, we're going to get Charles. He always does the Christmas Spectacular on Christmas Eve. He got his understudy. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I had known that it was his retirement year. So I went, I'm not even joking, 3 times until I finally saw him, because I just needed to see him that one final time. He was my childhood. He was Santa for me growing up.
God, he doesn't that guy did not age at all. His voice, the way he moved. I honestly, I thought the guy was honestly not even 40 years old.
Yeah, he was very seamless in that role. And like you said, his voice just never changed over time. It's exactly as I had remembered it as a kid.
It must have been the exact same guy, because it sounded exactly like him. And I don't trust my memory that much, because Santa looks like Santa, and I was always 1,000 feet away, but I could still see. It sounded exactly the same.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's funny you mentioned that, because when I would work on tours, I'm obviously all the way in the back of house. But I knew when he was on stage, because I could tell his distinct voice, and he had just this twinkle about him, even when he spoke. You just knew it was him.
That is really cool, man. What an amazing story. I mean, come on.
Oh, I have plenty of them. Sitting in on Adele's sound check. No, sorry, not. Yeah, it was Adele and Dolly Parton. I got to listen to their sound check.
Oh, that must have been a treat.
Yeah, because we would give tours no matter what was going on. Like depending on the production. Like I remember they premiered Batman versus Superman, and Warner Brothers had a very strict policy of like we could not show the auditorium on the tour for fear that somebody would take a picture or video before the movie released. But some productions were very lax. They just like no flash photography. It's very distracting, and no video. Just be respectful in that manner. But we would sometimes catch celebrities on the stage. That wasn't as frequent for me when I was on tour. But when I would be standing at the tour desk and I heard what was going on stage, I would often just pop in and sit in the back with security. They're all sitting and chilling, listening to the sound checks of various people.
What an awesome job.
Oh, it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. And it was, in a way, it was kind of like me giving a performance too, because like I would give, the tour was supposed to be an hour and 15. Sometimes I went a little over, like an hour and a half, but I had an audience with me, and like I would test out jokes with certain people.
Doing your bit?
Well, I'm not a comedian by any means, but like I would try, something that when I would, because when they first give you the script, they want you to say verbatim so that you don't like embellish and get facts wrong, and they wanted you to double check before you added anything in. But the tour route would always change, so the script would always rearrange, and you would have to figure out like little segues into things. And I don't remember any of the jokes that I would tell on the tour, but I just remember them being like my little guinea pigs and trying stuff out.
But what really like brought on the transition from going from being a tour guide for Radio City, then teaching, and now kind of getting your feet wet in performing, coming full circle?
So in terms of like the performing aspect, I've been dabbling in performance for a while, and it was back in Radio City days, because every tour guide pretty much was like in acting. It was part-time work, so it was easier if you had an audition or a rehearsal or something, or a production came into town. It was very flexible that way. And I got some work through somebody that I knew at Radio City. I got to be an extra on HBO's The Deuce with James Franco.
Oh, yeah. All right.
And that, I didn't see myself in any of the episodes. I made it on the cutting room floor, obviously, but the experience was just mind-boggling. I did like 4 episodes, I want to say, of that. And initially, I just was happy to be on a professional production. I didn't think much about what major stars in this show. And I'm sitting at the bar in a scene, and I was sitting there for a good maybe 10, 15 minutes before I noticed that my bartender was James Franco.
Yeah, the twin brother.
Yeah, the twin brother. And then Maggie Gyllenhaal's down the bar from me, and I'm like, whoa, what's happening?
I met Maggie Gyllenhaal like during those years, doing background work, having to do like a catering gig once in a while. And I got recruited for this catering gig where it was actually sort of like that horseback polo type of event. Mm-hmm. But it was being done out, I think it was called Liberty Island, and in the park in New Jersey, where you could see perfectly Liberty Island, the Freedom Tower, everything. And I think it was like maybe the summer of 2014, or maybe even, it might have been 2014, if not 15. But Maggie Gyllenhaal was there, and actually I was the one actually serving her Brut and Rosé champagne.
It was so bizarre. And one of the episodes I was in, I couldn't tell you which one it was, but it was in another different bar. But James Franco directed that particular episode that I was in. And that was bizarre too. Like, oh my God, James Franco's given like the extras direction on where to stand. I was like, this was like something out of a dream. And then through that work, I had a little lull after that project. And then I got from the same casting agency. I wish I could remember the name of it. They're in Brooklyn. I forget the name of the casting agency, but and that's actually where we filmed. They had sound stages on like the Brooklyn Navy Yard. I'm having trouble remembering the name of it. I
know Grant Wilfie works with them.
That's it, Grant Wilfie. Yeah. That's the one.
They do everything.
I knew it had a W in it. Yeah, I did extra work as the Joker. In Heath Ledger's not Heath Ledger. Oh my God, Joaquin Phoenix is the Joker.
The previous one or the current one?
The previous one. And that was another one, didn't think much about it, but I was in a scene with Joaquin Phoenix. It was the comedy club scene.
Oh, and he's laughing by himself, and then
Both of
getting on
those, when
stage.
he's laughing by himself and when he's on stage doing his set, because that they shot that all in the same day.
Yeah, and then he switches his outfit, but then just flips it, and the background's already there. Yep,
Yeah, and
I
they
know
had
the
like a
tricks.
yeah they had like a fog machine going for all the cigarette smoke in the venue and everything.
No, yeah. So, well, what was it like just seeing him?
Again, it was, you would think that having worked at Radio City and seen a lot of celebrities in my day to day that I wouldn't get starstruck. But I was like, oh my god, that's Joaquin Phoenix. I'm in a scene with Joaquin Phoenix. But what really floored me was the production element of it, like how a not even 2 minute scene took 16 hours. I want to say it was that day.
Oh my God,
It was a
you
long production day
you
because
hit the
they did
golden hour.
one the shot where he's laughing in the comedy club. They're like, this is like the hot night. This is like all the good comics are out. You know, you're bringing your best date out for this. So it was packed to the gills, and then they had us in a holding area in a theater right around the corner from. We shot it in what used to be Dangerfield's Comedy Club.
Oh, and on what's that, 55th Street or 50, right by the bridge?
It's on 59th, but it was right by the Queensboro Bridge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It closed after the pandemic, I found out, but
Yeah. What the fuck? I can't believe that.
yeah, it was filmed there that we did the comedy clubs in that Pogos. That's actually Dangerfield's,
Right.
and the movie theater was like right around the corner from it, and that was where they held us, and they did hair and makeup and all. They took over the entire movie theater.
Oh, it was like it was a movie house, not a private one, or was it like AM? Because I don't.
It was a movie house. I don't know what they did to rent out the entire place, but when the Joker did come out, I made a point of seeing it in that theater, remembering that, oh, I was in holding here. I sat in this this auditorium waiting for my name to get called.
Well, that's fun.
It really was. That's like the production really took me by surprise, like how intricate it was, and like one of the things that I always took away was like the fog machine for the cigarettes. I would have never thought about that.
You learn a lot on set.
You really do.
You learn a lot.
And how they like flipped everything around. They made two different nights on the same day.
Yep.
It was so amazing.
Well, my curiosity was this, because in that scene, you know how he kind of gets in his head, and he's not getting a single laugh. And did you see the movie where at that scene, then all of a sudden the music starts to play, the lights shine directly into him, and the camera's behind him.
Mm-hmm.
We don't hear what he says, but he puts his arms up like that.
I did. He was doing. It was a bombed set. So actually, what was interesting when I saw the movie was the change of direction that the director took, because when they initially shot it, and I don't know if they did it to trick us so that we wouldn't spill the beans on the movie, or if he just had a better idea, because it was Warner Brothers again, so it was all that secrecy, and we couldn't say anything. But when he did his set, it was horrible. But they actually did close-ups of our faces. I remember the makeup lady doing my face and everything, and they came and panned over to like watch my shocked expression with like a cigarette hanging out of my mouth. Like, what am I watching right now? And they cut all that out.
Yeah. Did you remember the line he said?
Actually, the one that I do remember was the one that's in the movie. The something about, no, Mom, I'm going to be a comedian. There were a couple of others, but I forget what the arm thing was that he was doing. This was back in 2018. I was on that set, so it's been a while.
Jeez. How long do you think it took after you filmed to actually watch it in theater to go back to that holding space?
It wasn't that long. It was maybe a couple of months. But
no way.
Yeah, from when I had filmed that scene to when it actually hit screens, I think it was like maybe 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, it felt like the trailers were out way before 6 months.
Yeah, because I remember distinctly it was 2018, because I was working at my other job in Manhattan, and part of the reason why I didn't do more time with that is because I couldn't get time off of work. I wasn't part-time anymore, like when I was on the Deuce, where I had more flexibility. This one, my job was like, we need you with the kids. Like, you can't keep calling out, kind of thing. So that's what kind of put a stop on things for a while. But working with the special needs population, a lot of them have the very specific interests. A lot of them being Sesame Street, and I had a student who made this weird connection in her mind, and after she pointed it out to me, I couldn't unhear it, but she made this connection that Tom Waits, I don't know if you know the musician Tom Waits.
If I look him up, I'll probably remember right away.
He sings like very raspy, he's like very down here. He did a song in Shrek 2 when they go to the poison apple.
Tom Waits?
Yeah, his name's Tom Waits.
As in waiter. Waits.
Yeah. Waits.
Oh yeah. I know that. I know this guy's voice. Yeah.
So she made the connection that that's Cookie Monster. It's not really the voice actor of Cookie Monster, but she was like, he sounds like Cookie Monster. So there'd be a couple of times where she's like, Cookie Monster says this, and she's saying like a Tom Waits lyric, and I'm like, I don't think you should be saying that.
Oh, geez, man, that's cool.
But what I would do is, she was one of those students that was very hard to get in with. Like she couldn't care if you were there, you didn't matter. But I did the Tom Waits voice. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, you're here. You're in the room with me. And it got to a point she would, zero in on me when she would come and she'd ignore everybody else, come over, and she would just go, Tom Waits. And I was like, hello, Kate, talking that raspy voice for her.
Then all of a sudden she's fully on, like she's attentive.
Yep. And she would, she would tell me things, she would try to mess up the line. Like she would, what was unique about this school is that I was actually allowed to sit down and watch some of these videos with her that were her, because it was like, how do you get in with somebody like that? You have to know what she's into. So I would watch a lot of these Sesame Street clips from the Muppet Show and all that. And she'd make references to it, and like I would mess up a line and she would think it was the funniest thing ever. She'd mess up a line and I'd be like, no, it's supposed to be this.
Dude, this is the first time I have ever heard a teacher in any way, shape, or form actually kind of researching how to teach to a kid.
This school was, so the model was called floor time, and it's exactly what it denotes. You would get, in theory, on the floor with the kid to get in with them. It was a very play-focused therapy. It's more complex than I'm laying it out to be. Like I do a very horrible job of explaining it, but the administration made a point of constantly training us, because it's called a spectrum for a reason. Like there's no black or white to how you approach this population. It's very varied, and a lot of it detective work. A lot of it you have to guess, like, what is that? Like they do what's known as scripting, where they'll just recite like a line from a commercial or a movie. It's like, what is that? And like you'll find out later on, like, oh, it's from this movie or this commercial. And and then figuring out like what's the meaning on that. What are they communicating when they're thinking about that? What's the mood, sort of thing.
I was in special ed almost my entire life. I was probably on the spectrum as well. Never had somebody work with me like that.
Yeah, it's a very unique approach, and even the school I'm working at, there's similarities to it, but it's nowhere near as intensive as this school was. It was very, it was therapeutic, really, to have that bond with the kid, because some of them were they were very hard to get in with. They didn't know who you were. They didn't understand where you were coming from. But if you were communicating through something that they understood, there was a trust all of a sudden.
Sure. Or something like there was a relationship in their mind already established, and you were being connected to that relationship, and they just trusted it.
Exactly. And when I had initially started the school, like I was very clinical about it. Like I was like, oh, I didn't go to school for this. Like my friend got me the job because I needed health insurance, and I wasn't getting it at Radio City at the time. So that's ultimately how I ended up at the school. I was like, I don't have any background in this. And she's like, don't worry, I'll help you out with your CV and everything. And she got me the job, and I was like, I felt like such a fraud. I'm like, what am I doing here right now? Like, I don't know any of this stuff. I didn't go to school for this. But when I would play as a kid with them, I had the greatest successes. And it really tapped back into that playful aspect that I would need as an actor. Like if I ever do get back into acting, which is what I'm trying to do now, I have to pretty much envision my students, because they made me feel more vulnerable. Like they made me feel like I could be myself. I can let that inner kid out.
Wow. Yeah, I'm getting emotional, dude. Like that. No, I truly am. Like that level of investment. And, it's funny you mentioned health insurance, because that's the only reason I ever went to college.
Yeah.
No, I was. I never, like I said, special ed. I had no, even then I did horrible at like college English, like really bad, like horrible. But it was literally what led me to, I guess, be where I am today, because if I didn't go to college, I never would have done my first musical, and then I never would have been in my first acting class. And if I didn't do that class, I never would have done my first short film.
It's so interesting, because when I was an acting student, I went to Borough of Manhattan Community, and I did two stage shows there. They were original. Well, they weren't original works, because one of them was a stage rendition of Reservoir Dogs that the drama club put on.
Nice.
And I got to play Mr. Blonde. That was pretty cool. But we did another one that was like a workshop. It was a show about the year 1936, and it was very experimental in terms of like how it was written and staged and everything. But I found that I didn't have as great a success being on stage, because I was very much aware of my mannerisms, and I was very much in my head when I was on stage. Even though like I had gotten positive feedback with some of the performances I did, I was very much in my head in some of those productions. So that was again before I had worked with this population, where again they just like they taught me, ironically, like just be a kid, tap into that reserve that you have.
Gotcha. Well, so what other steps have you taken to kind of now just get back into acting? So want to do background work, or?
Well, for now, what I've been doing, because again, working in a school, I can't take off as much as I would like. One interest that I've always had was voice acting. And I've always wanted to, like, I was always fascinated by cartoon and the voices that were in them, because I would have an ear for it. I'd be like, that sounds like Gray Delisle, who does the voice of Azula in Avatar: The Last Airbender. She's also Vicky the babysitter in The Fairly Odd Parents. And I'd have ear for that kind of thing. And I'd be like, oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, that's so-and-so. So that's always a line of work I've always wanted to get into. And I would, as a kid, I would mimic people's voices. I was talking about with that student of mine, like, I would do the Tom Waits voice, talk down here. And she it was good enough for her, because she's like, that's Tom Waits. That's it. You're going to do that for me from now on. But that's kind of where the angle is right now. I've been looking at voice acting jobs on Backstage, and I'm working on creating a demo to showcase what my talents exactly are.
Oh, you want to do like a one act of a one-man show or something?
Or just maybe in the future, at some point end up in a cartoon of some sort, and something in animation. That's down the line a bit. Like for now, what I'm trying to do is focus on and get over the stigma of hearing my voice, because that's something that was another thing that was always in my way, is like hearing my voice on recording. I have to sit there and I have to edit my audio clips before I submit them for auditions. So I have to cringe a little bit when I'm listening to myself.
Really?
I'm slowly getting better with it.
Don't tell me you don't like your voice.
I don't think anybody likes their voice in recording, quite honestly. I don't know what it is. Like, I think there's like a science behind it. Like some people just can't hear themselves talk, but I have gotten better with it. Like I've been submitting a little bit more here and there, but yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Just looking at voice acting gigs. Maybe at some point I can get back on that stage. I just got to remember to keep my students in mind, so I have that vulnerability when I approach a role.
Well, how much longer do you plan on staying with that job and working with kids?
Well, anything goes. I kind of want to stay for, again, it comes down to what the benefits are. I want to stay for 3 years because that's when I get a pension with this place. And pensions are unheard of these days. So that is a career goal of mine right now, just to stick it out for 3 years at least, and then maybe reassess and be like, is this the line of work for me? Should I be sticking with kids, or should I get back into the acting field? But what I am doing right now is, like I said, I am on Backstage, and that's how I found this podcast. Just auditioning for multiple things.
Well, not for nothing. That type of job seems like you're going to have a lot of like takeaway as an exercise to kind of stay sharp creatively, you know?
Absolutely. They're another one. My little ones, they're my guinea pigs. Like I try voices and character, or even little shticks, if you will, with them. I mean, the brow of humor is a lot lower with them because they're 4-year-olds, but I know what works and what doesn't with them.
Is there like a tactic or technique or method you got to use with kids, like some sort of like psychiatrist study that's been used?
I mean, you could go the psychiatric approach, but for me, it boils down to like they see a big kid in me. They just see like somebody who isn't afraid. They see this giant, compared to them, who isn't afraid to get on the floor, who isn't afraid to like pick up a toy, make it talk to them, or even do funny things with them, like make them like my little marionette puppets and make them dance or something. Like
tie a string to their wrist and then like
no, like I'll hold their wrist and I'll like they have this little dance that we do. I don't know where I came up with it, but like it's to the beat of Tequila from the Champs, the song in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
It's the Pee-wee song.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that part where they say tequila, I just go hooray, because I don't need them going home to their parents saying tequila and like, who's telling you about tequila?
Pee-wee Herman.
Pee-wee Herman, exactly. So yeah, I do a little dance, simple little thing. I just make them like flail their arms, and I make them go back and forth. But they line up, like they see me doing it with one kid. They're like, my turn. I'm like, okay, it's play, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's more fun. Do they have to be there for the full 8 hours a day for their education, or is it like milder?
It is milder. In fact, they get a nap time. This crew. I never had a nap time at my old job. we would do meditation with the older crew. That was my attempt at a nap time. Just having them quiet down, sit down for a minute, and just not talk.
That I haven't seen nap time, because I definitely did not have nap time in school.
I didn't have it either.
Public school, right? You ever see Kindergarten Cop with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
I haven't seen too many like I'm a teacher movie, except High School High or something like that. I don't know. Did you ever see like maybe a teachers or an education type of movie that kind of like rubbed off on you?
No, it's the strangest thing too. I've been told, like, aside from my talent with voices and mimicry and all that, I've been told constantly that I would be good as an educator. I don't fancy myself an educator, because again, I'm just playing. Like, I don't really have a rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. This just feels fun. And I've had people step in like, oh, maybe you try it this way, maybe you try it that way. Like I'm always course corrected, but they honor what I'm doing too. They're like, well, you are playful, so let's try this playful tactic. But I used to work in a summer school, a summer camp, and again, the kids all love me. And that was the only time where I was like, maybe I could be a teacher, but like, it does require a lot of patience for the amount of like you take your work home with you. I know I'm only a teaching assistant, but my teachers that I've always worked under, they have to deal with parent emails at home and all the aggravation, like after the kid, if a kid goes home with the wrong hat or something, like once they leave the building, I just want to leave work at the door.
Have you seen My Teddy Bear or something like that?
Yeah, make sure that so-and-so eats, and kid doesn't want to eat, he's pushing his food away. And it's like, I don't know what to tell you. He doesn't want to eat.
You ever feel like a babysitter?
At times, yeah. There's
Wow.
actually a student in my class that I'm just like, they're a little too young for the setup of the room. A lot of these kids are at a social stage in their development where they're playing together, they're engaging with one another. And then I have this one that's in the corner ripping books apart and tearing stuff off of shelves. And it's just a pain because like I have this beautiful stuff going on with these kids over here, and then I gotta go take care of this one over there.
Gotcha. So how many kids are in a room?
This one I have 12. At my old job, I had 10.
Oh, geez. All right. So that means you got at least 24 parents that you got to
Mhm.
talk to. Oh man,
Yeah,
that's
it was a little worse at my old job because like some of the kids had a hard time communicating. So, the parents would be trying to fill in the gaps, like why is he missing this, and this, or why does he have this mark on him, even though the guy is 20 years old. He
oh,
doesn't
there.
have at my
So
old job. Yeah.
oh, all right. So like for kids, like are they around the same age group or is it like a real mixed bag of nuts?
So at my old place, they did it by one size because like when certain kids were hitting puberty, like they didn't want certain developmental groups with one another. But at this particular school, it's just a preschool. It doesn't go any higher than 5.
Okay.
So
So
in some respects, it does feel like babysitting because some of the kids are very, very little, and some of them aren't even toilet trained. But
oh, oh,
even that, like I'm kind of impressed with like how many diapers I've changed. Like I've become a pro at that.
geez. All right. Well, I, use it in your work.
Exactly.
Well, have you done any like acting classes or intensives or anything like that?
Yeah, I was looking into improv for a while. In fact, there was an improv instructor who did stuff over Zoom, so I was doing that during the pandemic just to keep things sharp.
Oh God, if like thinking about my first improv class, my teacher's name was David Cohen. I think he still teaches at my community college. But I could just imagine him recreating with full-grown adults your job and just to see what your day is like, basically doing an improv scene of having to change everybody's diaper on the stage.
Yeah. I mean, and even in my old job, like there were young adults that like they had, they didn't have the best control over their bowel movements. I'll put it that way. So there were a couple of times I had to tend to, bathroom needs with, 18 to 21-year-olds, but
Wow.
it wasn't as frequent as here. Like here, it's a given. I'm changing diapers every day.
Just 3 more years. Just 3 more years.
3 more years, exactly. And then I get that pension and I can look at other stuff.
Yeah, there's worse ways to go. But I guess curious thing. Now you want to get into acting a little bit more. What was it that really made you want to like maybe try performing? Was there any like real inspiration that just clicked?
Yeah, I had a hard time as a kid because I I wasn't special needs. Like I don't think I was ever tested for it, but I definitely had social shortcomings where
Sure.
I just didn't know how to interact with my peers. And I always thought that being an actor would, allow me that liberty to be somebody that I'm not. But it was actually a lot harder in practice when I first tried it out. I just couldn't just read some lines off of a page and then it's all fall into place. There was a lot more to it, like physicality and things like that. But I definitely did it more to bond with people,
Yeah.
and to a certain way also express myself in a way that I couldn't do on a normal basis. I've gotten a lot better over the years of expressing myself, but there is a certain element of like I would like to show a more fun side of my personality, and I always felt like the that mimicry that I always had as a kid. Like I just didn't want that to go to waste. It's serving my purposes with preschoolers for sure. Like I'm definitely keeping them engaged. But it's like it's a talent that's in me that I just don't want to go to waste. And I would like to utilize it. So right now where I'm at in my journey is I'm trying to create a demo that best showcases that.
So you just need a little bit of material and then just execute.
And then just execute. And then I'll put it out on some of the voice acting websites that are out there, and an audition on the side too. But one thing that I need to learn too is marketing. Like I don't know how to treat myself as a business.
Welcome to Happy Corner. This project strives to make safe housing areas for stray cats at an affordable price. It's so easy to put together that even your children could have fun making one. Help keep cats and other animals safe with their own little Happy Corner homes. You can help this project become a reality by donating to the GoFundMe page. Happy Corner homes are a great way to show those animals in need it's okay to be happy.
I don't know if anybody truly knows. I don't, because I had a funny conversation 3 years ago about marketing and sort of like the whole show of Mad Men and like, what it's about. And I never really watched it, but it kind of touched base and to what you're saying about what is marketing like. I could tell you right now, like from all the marketing we've done in the AFC to just like maybe with ads or developing the right type of a hook and all these little things, like even like it could be anything, even the newspaper, not a single return on investment, So I think honestly consistency in this, because well, like when it comes to marketing, what do you want? You just want people to see it, you want people to buy it, like what?
Well, a little both.
Well, yeah, no doubt. But what do you think? What do you think you're not doing right at this time?
Well, the thing that struck me is I was taking a voice acting seminar last year. That's where this whole thing had started. I had found an instructor. His name's Rob Holt. He's fantastic. I highly recommend him to anybody that wants to try out voice acting. But he had a class all about like the business, just the business end of it. And there was a part that I took away from it, where it's like raw talent is not enough. You need to think of yourself as a business. That was another phrase that I remember taking away from it. So it's that kind of like, oh, maybe that's not enough to just like, do some funny voices on a recording and, hope for the best. Like it's about like how to sell my brand, if you will.
Sure.
So
Well,
that's something that I'm just trying to figure that out, because I don't, like I said, I don't think anybody truly knows. So I'm just, what's a good marketing strategy for somebody like me, kind of thing.
you think you found yourself, or like you kind of know what you're capable of?
I think I know what I'm capable of. Like I said, it's a matter too of focus too, like sitting down and actually doing it. Because like I said, working in a preschool, it's a little tiring. You come home from work and you just want to just zone out for a little bit.
Well, if you were to hit a certain idea, or is there somebody who's not an idol, but in a manner of speaking, like I want to be like that guy that you're kind of like aiming towards?
I mean, gold standard, I would like to be like Mel Blanc.
Noah Blanc?
Mel Blanc. He was the voice of the Looney Tunes.
Like most of the Looney Tunes, or was he Bugs Bunny? Or
he was all of them. Bugs Bunny, Sylvester, Tweety, Yosemite Sam. He did them all.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. That's like, again, gold standard. Like I would like, he would be an idol that I look up to. Like I grew up with the Looney Tunes. I thought they were the peak of comedy as a kid.
I forget the actress's name, but she used to be in I think it was Rocky and Bullwinkle.
June Foray.
June Foray, that's it. June, thank you. Man, I haven't seen that documentary in a minute, but when I was getting into puppetry, I had a really good internship at Bill Diamond Studios up in the Catskills. And it was really by accident, because the only reason I found out about that place is because the guy who dropped off a refrigerator at my parents' house worked there. And it was literally like year one or year two for me in college. And, we kind of just, of course, I don't shut up. I always say, oh, I'm an actor, blah, blah, blah. Oh, what a coincidence. And I find out about the puppet studio. I'm working there for a year, and I actually got to see like this guy's background, because Bill Diamond was actually the last Muppeteer before Jim Henson had passed away.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I got to work on his online show, because we didn't streaming wasn't what it is today. But Hulu was just starting out, and he just predicted how streaming and Hulu and things like that were going to really take over. And he created a show called the Monster TV Network. And it was sort of like this puppetry of Bela Lugosi, every single Universal monster movie in a puppet, but a personality that produced their own show of the Monster TV Network that just has other guests on the show, which happen to be either people or puppets. It was a cool thing.
Where was this? Because this is the first I'm hearing of it.
I think his studio is still in Cornwall, New York. It's just outside of Newburgh. And they're like literally booked season 2 of Poker Face on Peacock up in the Hudson Valley. That whole section of the Hudson Valley just got like a 40% tax credit to film out of New York City and do it for just an hour north. Like from from George Washington Bridge, it's quicker to get to Newburgh than it is to get to Coney Island by driving from the George Washington Bridge. So
Really?
I'm not even exaggerating. And even the short distance is shorter. Well, it's just quicker to get upstate, and you're saving 40% of your budget upstate. But the puppet show, I'm almost certain Bill might still be on Facebook. I haven't spoken to him in like maybe 3 years, but the website used to be called monstertvnetwork.net. And since I last clicked on that link, I don't think it's active anymore. But if you Google Bill Diamond or Bill Diamond Productions, you'll see definitely something, especially that documentary DVD that he helped produce with Cortland Hull. Cortland Hull's great aunt or first aunt, I believe, was Victoria Hull or Cynthia Hull, and she performed in Arsenic and Old Lace with Cary Grant as one of the aunts, like the short little brown-haired one. So that was Cortland Hull's aunt, and since like he was kind of like brought up in the industry, he always had like an sort of like an aspiration or just like an affinity for stage makeup. And he literally, since he was a kid, he always used to design life-size scale models of the monsters of the Universal Pictures. And his documentary is about the Witch's Dungeon, which is in Connecticut. And when he was a kid, he basically built a shed, and it was called the Witch's Dungeon, and he could come and see all of these attractions of the Universal monsters, which he made literally by hand. And I think it was actually Vincent Price that got him out of legal trouble because he was kind of soliciting licensed material to the public. He got out of it because it wasn't like at the time where, definitely as a kid, no doubt, he wasn't like trying to like make money from it or anything like that. What he was actually doing, I think that got him out of it with the lawyer, because he apparently got a good one thanks to Vincent Price, is that he's not robbing you. He's actually just promoting you, or something along that line, where it's just like he's like, so what? Like, what's the difference between him wearing a shirt with that stuff on it, and he's just literally wearing a shirt that says the exact same message, as opposed to something he built from scratch by hand?
Yeah.
So I think like the whole thing got dropped, and they actually doubled down and supported it and made it better, just because it did have their name on it. And I think they expanded it, and now it's I think for a time it was the #1 Hollywood Halloween attraction on the Eastern Coast.
I think when you said the Witch's Dungeon, I think I know what you're talking about. It's like I think of like a wax museum when I think of it, but like
it was. I think they were all made out of wax.
But yeah, that name sounds familiar, and it's like open to like select dates. Like it's not a year-round thing. Right.
Yeah. And I think what ended up happening was they put all these things in storage, but they put them back in the dungeon. How it all began, and I remember wanting to go, but it turned out every time Halloween came around, I was actually working or helping Bill Diamond, because we also did a haunted house of puppetry.
Oh, really?
It was really cool. Like, it was at a winery in, I think it was Washington. Yeah, it was in Washingtonville, New York, at Brotherhood Winery, and it's a huge, enormous wine cellar, and there's a lot of little sections of the winery where you could literally play and have things pop out and be scary, and the suspense was definitely there. And once we started including the smoke machine and the lights, and I was actually wearing the giant spider bodysuit. It was very and with the lights flashing, it was very suspenseful and scares the shit out of you.
Yeah, I do Halloween Horror Nights every year now, Universal Studios, and what made me think of that was when you said you did a house with puppets. Like, they had a puppet themed haunted house, where they make the humans into puppets, kind of thing.
But where was this?
In Florida. They do
Universal
it in
Hollywood
too. Yeah, Universal Studios.
Gotcha. Well, these guys, I mean, they're probably going to be the best of the best.
I mean, the attention to detail. They actually have a separate tour where you go in with the lights on, so you could appreciate all the little details that they throw in. They throw in Easter eggs from past haunted houses that they did. If it's a big IP, like they're doing Chucky this year.
Oh God, forget. No, that terrified me as a kid.
Oh, me too. I just had to see the VHS cover, and I was like, no, no, thank you.
I thought to get over my fear, I could dress up my niece as Chucky because she's redheaded. That would just help me like get over it. But I could, but my sister's terrified of it too, and I just couldn't imagine like if I got my makeup artist friend saying, "Hey, I got my niece. You got 20 minutes. Make him look like Chucky."
This is online personality. His name's the Nostalgia Critic. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he did a series of videos, and this was how I got over my fear of Chucky. He did a review of Chucky, but this guy's a comedian, so he does like a very comedic spin on bad movies, and he loves film, so he's very, very particular about how things are done. He has this eye for mistakes that are right in front of you, but he just showed how stupid Child's Play actually was. Like when I watched it as an adult, I was like, I was afraid of this.
Yeah. No, I still can't. Like I get triggered. I'm a kid at heart and in my brain, forget it. No, I walk away.
I don't even know how I got over my fear of haunted houses. Like there was a time I was like, if you told me like even like 6 years ago that I would be going into haunted houses willingly, I would have been like, you're crazy.
A girl I dated actually ran a haunted house of prisons and kind of curbed it a little bit. And then when I found out who was in the cast later, one of them in particular was actually a actress and former makeup artist of mine that I've worked with, where it's like, oh, so it kind of eliminated the fear that I was taking away with that. It's just like, oh, all right, now I'm good.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact one where I mean there's a part of it, it's like they can't touch me. So there is that element of like no harm will come of me in this place. But I don't know why I willingly go in there to get scared, because I jump. There's some really good scares in these houses. Like some of the actors get right in your face, or one of them they last year they like followed me for a couple of steps, like they wouldn't just leave me alone.
I feel kind of hypocritical about it because when I was growing up, I like to just like, you know, the one corner of my hallway was always kind of dark and the coats were just barely on the wall. And my mom would come walking down the hall and have no idea I was there. And what do you think I'm going to do?
Oh, I used to do that all the time. Like, so I live in the basement right now, but at the time this was like what's now my bedroom was now was the playroom / office. So not a lot of people came down here. So if I found myself playing PlayStation and I heard somebody coming down, I would try to jump out and scare people.
So I mean, like that's what I mean. Like we'd like to do it to others, but we can't like kind of like appreciate the theatrical part of a haunted house. Like I still can't do it.
It's a part like this apartment. It's like I get a little nervous going into it, but it's also like I enjoy it and I don't know why. I know one of the first things where I was like, I'm just gonna rip the Band-Aid and do it was I was at Universal Studios. I was on the VIP tour, so I paid about $500 for that ticket, which included, you know, lunch and jumping the line. So they have an express line for rides. I got to cut the express line, but I wanted to get my money's worth. And I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and I had a sweater that had Gryffindor on it, and I felt like I couldn't chicken out going into the Walking Dead house that they had on the tour.
No, couldn't do it.
I'm wearing a shirt that advertises bravery. I can't get cold feet. I got to go in there, and I was holding on to a complete stranger the whole time. Like I didn't even realize until halfway through that I was like strangling this guy in front of me.
You got to suck it up, bro. Get through it.
But yeah, that was, I want to say that was like the first time I was like, all right, these aren't so bad, but
Yeah.
I love horror movies. Like there was another thing too. I didn't realize that I would ever get into that.
Would you down at Universal Studios, did you ever see their closing ceremony show at the end of the night?
Like like in general?
Well, because I remember when I was there, I think it must have been in it was in 2019 that I was there. I had gone to both Disney World and Universal for like during that week. And I just remember like Universal Studios in the final finale show on the water and the lights and the music and all that stuff. I do remember the biggest takeaway from like that experience was the soundtrack of Back to the Future.
Oh yes. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think I did that.
Well, I wanted to ask you, like, why'd you pick your favorite film as Back to the Future?
Oh, that film was one of the first films I was shown as a kid that was like not a kid's film. it was a tie between that or Jurassic Park. Like it's very hard for me to pick a favorite out of those two. But I went with Back to the Future because, for one thing, the soundtrack gets me pumped. I have it on my phone. If I need a little oomph before work, I listen to this. In fact, I was listening to it on the way home today. Sometimes I just need that pick me up after a long day. And it just really, it really tantalized my imagination. Like, what if I had a time machine? What if I could go back in time? What if, it just all opened a lot of what ifs for me. Like, it was one of the few films that like inspired me. Like,
Right.
I mean, Jurassic Park blew me away as a kid, but I think every little kid loved dinosaurs. So I think everybody had that same amount of awe. But I show people, like my ex-girlfriend, I showed her Back to the Future, and she's like, it was okay. I was like, what? This is like top cinema. What do you mean it's okay? It had a way of inspiring me, and it gave me a lot of food for thought about like what ifs and like how much of our future is written or isn't written, and how different would things have been, but also like what can I do in the moment now, because this theoretically is the past, and I could make changes now for the future. So
that's an interesting take.
It's a film that I've studied for a long time.
Well, how do you feel about the Broadway musical coming out?
It's going to be trash, but I'm going to go see it. I have that.
It's going to be trash, but you're going to go see it.
I just don't see how it's going to translate to stage. The movie just had the cinematography got like that final sequence when he goes back to the future. It just got my adrenaline pumping. Like when I would go to the gym, when I had a gym membership, to get me pumped to go on the treadmill, I would watch that scene on my phone because it would just get my heart rate going. All right, good. And then I would get a pace rolling, and I would be able to do the treadmill for a amount of time. But I don't see how they're going to be able to translate that adrenaline to the stage.
I agree, especially like when you saw Spider-Man or did not see Spider-Man like 10 years ago. And it's like they put a couple $100 million into the show. And it's like, come on. Like, I don't even think like No Way Home Spider-Man cost a couple $100 million to make. And that was awesome.
I'm actually, another movie that was turned into a musical that I kind of regret not seeing was Beetlejuice, because it was one of those things like, how are they going to make that a musical? And then I was listening to it, was like, you know what? It wasn't bad.
Oh, you did get to go and see it?
No, just like what they did, like the little clips that I've seen and the bits of the soundtrack that I've listened to. I was like, this, I had a lot less expectation for it.
I had, it was hard for me to even get turned on to the idea of going to see it. Because you've seen it, you know the story. I kind of know exactly what you mean, because I have seen the movie Mamma Mia, Chicago, and also seen them on Broadway. Totally different. Loved them both. I think it was just for me between Spider-Man and Rocky. I'm curious about Back to the Future, about that dynamic and having that same experience, if not a more enjoyable experience to watch performance, and not being biased saying I could do that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, and this won't necessarily affect the musical, but like one other aspect that I loved about the Back to the Future, I see it as a redemption story. Doc was down and out on his luck before he met Marty, obviously, going back in time, but he was like the town kook. Nobody wanted to be around him. They thought he was crazy. And then here's this kid that comes out of nowhere and tells him that his dreams are all going to become reality. And he just all of a sudden has all this purpose and drive. And one of the best, it goes back to that climax, like one of the best scenes is him standing in the street with the two flames where the tires were, and just shouting triumphantly there's nobody there. He's just shouting to himself. Like he did it. Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of the one comedian, I think is John something, the Irish kid. He did a bit where he actually talked briefly about Back to the Future, that we have no idea how the relationship between Doc and Marty McFly was ever really established.
Yeah. I mean, I actually bought one of the comics for it, and he put out an ad looking for a lab assistant kind of thing. And Marty was, he was a high school kid. He needed some extra cash. So he signed up to be his lab assistant.
That's one thing with Marty McFly's character that you would never expect, because he has no scientific bone in his body. He's a musician and a skateboarder.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, I'll help you out. I
I
want
mean,
money.
it was one of those things where like when they created it, they didn't think people would think that too deeply into like their dynamic. It was just like, how are we going to get this teenager into the past? He has to have a mad scientist friend, and they didn't really like flesh out the relationship beyond that. But
It didn't
watching the
matter.
trilogy,
Like, I don't think it mattered at all. The movie was like, it was too good. I guess it was too good to care.
yeah, and now they have other media that kind of takes from that, like Rick and Morty. You're not going to tell me that's not inspired by Back to the Future.
I've heard Rick and Morty so many times, but I haven't actually watched any of it yet.
I've seen some. I've never like sat down and like diligently watched episodes. It's when it's on at my friend's house, I'll sit and I'll watch it, and it's enjoyable. But they definitely got inspiration from Doc and Marty to do that show. But yeah, they did address it in the comics. I went and I was that much of a fan. I went out and I bought I didn't buy a lot. I just bought like maybe like 2 or 3 of them. But
All right.
yeah, I bought the ones that like talked about like the beginning, like how did they become friends.
I gotta say though, like it's hard to believe when you watch that movie for the first time and then you watch. I watched it actually last week, literally just because I wanted to watch it. I got a really cool like collectible version where it's DVD. You got all the special alternative scenes and things like that. Watching Michael J. Fox actually drink real alcohol during a take.
Yeah.
Right? Little things like that where it's actually you kind of have fun on film set. And as a filmmaker now, you want to actually establish that kind of relationship with your entire team. Have you ever listened or read Michael J. Fox's book, Lucky Man?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it was like that was when Audible like really started becoming popular or well known. I subscribed, and that was the first audiobook that I had gotten. It was Michael J. Fox's memoir called Lucky Man. And throughout 2015, I probably listened to that book like 7 or 8 times. And it really he really spoke about how like even getting Parkinson's was actually the best thing that ever happened to him. I'm sure he still feels the same way, but it it really I can't speak for him or the book, but at the same time, like I couldn't relate to that, unfortunately, because he's saying like it really saved his life, but I'm like, what about your career? And his wife really put him into Tracy, had always been there for him and kept it real, and and he had to like he was even in a point in his relationship and marriage where it was completely compromised, where he had to like make some serious adjustments. And it almost seemed like, I don't want to say like Parkinson's was more of like a shepherd's tool of a crook to guide him into prioritizing. But I think from it actually, especially with him being a celebrity, shined a light on all of those who really do suffer from this disease, which led him to create his foundation of actually trying to find a cure.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he said, I think that's really why it wasn't really about his career. How he's actually able to more or less advocate and fight it like on the front line, because he actually did a commercial, I think, with Muhammad Ali, trying to raise awareness about it, because he also passed away from Parkinson's disease.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. I saw him on whatever award show, and he just like the conditions gotten a lot worse over the years. I feel so bad for him. He's I mean, he kept his spirits up. Like he still had his his Michael J. Fox charm, if you will, but it was just heartbreaking to see him like having to like struggle like steadying his hand while standing at the podium.
I know exactly the show you're talking about because it was recent.
Yeah, it was very recent.
It was recent. But he looks honestly, he looks exactly the same. I it's him from a mile away.
Oh yeah.
He does have that same charismatic attitude. As the same as he did in 1985.
Exactly. Like it's still shown through even with his disability. So he is an inspiration, even though I don't have Parkinson's, never struggled with it, but I could see how he would be a major an inspiration for people with Parkinson's, but just an inspiration for people in general who have any kind of struggle. Like look at what he's up against, and if you keep up his attitude, what's stopping you?
Well, he he has such a positive perspective because he was actually able to just like stop hiding and stop running from certain things that he really came to terms with, and now he's able to actually really, more or less fight this disease head on. And while doing so, inspiring others, and he overcame other things that he probably would have gotten worse had he kept the same lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, I have, a similar thing where just like trying to face my demons, if you will, like through therapy and like stuff that like as a kid, like, you were always told, oh, just get over it. But like as an adult, I'm like, no, this isn't normal to have these kind of, feelings and things of that nature. So therapy's been a big help too. And that was actually brought up in that voice acting seminar that I had attended. They mentioned that one of the facets to success is you have to make sure your physical and your mental health is in check. So,
100%. I don't know how it is for you, but it always felt very therapeutic and cathartic for me when you're performing.
Yeah, I especially liked it when like I could vibe with the audience. Like if I felt like they were digging what I was doing on stage, it was all the more therapeutic.
I do know, like, even though, like, not to go back, but to kind of tie into what you're pursuing, like, right after I think it was maybe Back to the Future Part 3, Disney had used Michael J. Fox in a few different projects for voiceover work, like Chance and Homeward Bound, or Milo, I think it was Milo Thatch in the City of Atlantis, or the Lost City of Atlantis. Mm-hmm. Like stories like that, it really kind of brought him into voiceover work. My curiosity is like, with your type of, style and with your background, is there like an ideal type of like voiceover gig you would like to really do?
Yeah, I definitely think like children's programming, because I just know that I can entertain kids, no problem, because I've put it to test many times. Even if they weren't chronologically children, they were developmentally of the age range that I'm working with now. So I definitely think that something that tailored towards kids, whether it's even narrating a children's book. I like reading to my students and then doing the voices and all that. So,
like working for Audible or something like that, doing a cover
for Audible. Yeah. Like doing like an audio book. Like there's other possibilities that I didn't think of, when I was pursuing this, audiobooks being one of them. Because I do actually like reading stories to my kids. It is kind of therapeutic. That is like my performance these days, is when I get to sit in front of the class and read a book to them, and based on what their reactions are, I know if I need to scale it back or amp it up a little bit.
Gotcha. So
sometimes they don't have the attention span to sit for a book, so sometimes it's kind of like a done deal. Like, all right, we're done for today. But then there's days where like they're eating out of my hand.
So it's not so much hit or miss, but it's really a matter of timing and like
timing. Yeah. Cause they, like I said, they have a nap time built into their day. So sometimes they're really tired and they just want to crash.
So they stick to their routine, and whatever, if it's story time, it's story time. If not, do they get bored depending on what the story's about?
Depends. Yeah. Sometimes like I think the story is, oh, they're going to like this, and they want nothing to do with it. And then there's a book I'm like, this is so boring. They're like, oh, they're commenting on it. They're pointing to pictures. I'm like, oh, okay. And I didn't think you were going to like this one.
And it becomes more interactive and they're engaged.
Yeah. Like there was a book just all about shoes, and they were like really interested in like who was wearing what shoes. I'm like, I didn't think you would care for it. And then there was another book, the rainbow fish, and they start off like engaged, and then I lose them.
He gives out his scales to everybody.
Yeah, he gives out his scales to everybody. And I have them like take his scale, like, come on and take a scale from him, and then they get sidetracked and they're not as engaged anymore.
Because they miss the moral of the story.
Yeah, I don't think that they fully comprehend like the message of the rainbow fish. It's sharing, and because that's a big thing I'm trying to get across to them was it feels good to share with others, because they're always like mine. Today though, I introduced them to green eggs and ham because they are very picky eaters. So I'm like, this is the perfect thing, and they enjoyed it. I showed them the cartoon because I didn't have the book handy. There's a cartoon from the 1970s, I want to say, and the voice of Tigger's in it. He does the
same actor.
The same actor, yeah. I don't know his name, but I
think he's a Spanish gentleman. He was Winnie the Pooh. He was Tigger. He even sang I think it's for don't quote me on it, but Jeremy something. He played the voice of Scar in the original Lion King.
Oh, no, I know who you're talking about. That's Jim Cummings is his name.
The voice
I'm talking
actor.
about the original Tigger from the 19, the original Winnie the Pooh. He did the voice of the I don't think the character has a name. The guy that doesn't like I Am Sam.
Huh. Honestly, I always thought it was that one actor. I didn't know there was another guy from like the original. They
Yeah,
sound identical, you know?
Oh, Jim Cummings is phenomenal. Like you were saying with that bit with Scar, where he jumped in mid song,
And it's like, and be prepared for the coup of a lifetime. I had there was such a transition. I had no idea it was two different guys.
and he did a similar thing too in Anastasia. He did Rasputin's voice
In a song?
in the song. So Christopher Lloyd does the speaking part, but Jim Cummings does the singing voice, and you would never tell the difference.
Christopher Lloyd, neighborhood. Oh, shout out Neighborhood Playhouse. Christopher Lloyd is an alumni of Sanford Meisner Neighborhood Playhouse in Manhattan.
Oh, really?
Oh, dude. When I first walked into the Neighborhood Playhouse, like Christopher Lloyd, they have a wall of fame where you see some very, very well-known actors and actresses from movies throughout like the last 50 years. Like they were a dime a dozen. But they did have quite a few, including Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park on the Wall of Fame. So like this was a phenomenal school. And just because their picture was on the wall, that's what made me decide to go there.
I mean, there's worse ways to get started at school. Like,
Oh, I encourage everybody to learn, learn. Like I've always of course, I'm sure, loved movies growing up and had an impression of the characters, not remembering for a long time the actor's name. I just remember the character's name, like Marty McFly. I had no idea his name was Michael J. Fox for the longest time. Not until I actually was fully grown up and seeing familiar faces, and then kind of feeling like, this is my dream. This is what I want to pursue. And they're doing the exact same thing. And they started right here. And it kind of just, inspired me to just start where they started, and you could end up where they ended up, Yeah,
some actors' journeys are an inspiration. Just knowing like they were doing something completely different before they got into the biz.
Oh, I was in construction before, going to college to get health insurance. The next thing you know, you're on stage.
Exactly, like you just doing something completely different. But even working in a school, like I went to school for drama and history, and then here I am teaching little kids. I never envisioned that for myself. So you never know what's going to happen.
It all ties together, and something circles back where you kind of feel like you're coming back full circle. You are and you're not. You're coming in now full circle with a lot more experience.
And a new perspective on things, like just a new way to be in my skin, if you will, like just tapping into that reserve that I didn't know how to tap into. And those kids honestly taught me how to play again.
As you should. And there's nothing is for nothing. So this is going to be contributing to something that ties into everything you've accomplished thus far. And especially if you have that goal, you're racking up a lot of tools in your tool belt.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I'm trying to appreciate the journey, because I'm very destination oriented. So I'm just this is the journey. This is the story that people want to hear. Like when you do make it to the finish line, people are like, well, how did you get here? And you don't want it to be like, well, it went from here to here. It's like, oh, and then I went on this ravine and up this hill and everything. You want it to be enticing and thrilling.
I feel you on that, because the finish line is pretty much the finish line is literally the starting line to something else, because when it feels like you've gone full circle, all you really did was take a lap. But now, and whether you realize it or not or know it or not, you feel like you didn't gain any experience or any distance, or you didn't accomplish anything. It's not true. Like you actually know how to navigate and do that lap a second time if need be. But you're going to be crossing different paths along the way with a lot less. Honestly, I think a lot less fear, because you know the road.
Exactly. Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like I hadn't done that full lap yet. So now when the second lap comes around, it's like, oh, I know where this part I have to skip is, you know, and I know all the turns and things like
I got to say, man, like this was probably one of the most fun podcasts I've had in a long time. Just to
that. Oh,
like,
thank you.
no, like honestly, like we got to talk about Radio City, we got to talk about education, you know, and a lot of things just kind of like naturally clicked, and it just seemed, you know, it was definitely something I appreciated and I needed, because it kind of like gave me like a recharge a little bit to, you know, don't worry about my age. I'm still like that same kid at heart, even though my path or this journey, this lap started at 22 years old. It doesn't matter, you know. And just hearing this all again, it just like it kind of made me think like you might be writing your own film as an educator, and being like not Mr. Holland's Opus type of a movie, but something along the lines of like how to really connect with the kid, and creating a character every man and teacher in America could probably aspire to, on how to connect and really educate and teach.
Well, yeah, who would have thought you get that out of a podcast, right?
No, it's true. Like when it's not just my memory or remembering all the type of things I wanted to see one day, but like some of the things that I've created are the things I wish I seen growing up, and the things that I definitely want to see, you know, now. Just to get it out of my head and just watch a damn good movie. Education for me had always been a disappointment before it happened, because I felt jaded being in special ed all those years, and the thing that made it really the most interesting is that I think I graduated in the bottom 1% of my class back in 2005 from high school. I'm almost certain that's the number. It's probably 2%, but I was like, there's no way I wasn't close to dead last, as I suck at school. I know it. I was horrendous. But a few years later, when I went to college for the first time, around 22, 23 years old, I got challenged in a way, because my teacher said if I don't get my grades up, then I can't do theater anymore. Like he gave me an ultimatum: figure it out or you're done. Mm-hmm. And long story very short, I ended up getting a 4.0 GPA that semester, and I don't get it.
It's so interesting, because like I was a shit student as well. My Achilles heel was math though, but there I am, you know, just scraping by, just barely passing, just barely making it to the next grade, and then I'm on the dean's list in college.
See, that's what I mean. Like you ever feel like maybe you just prioritize things better and then you perform? Because is there like, I don't know, as men, do we feel maybe more competitive where we want to achieve something?
Competitive is definitely, actually, that's another Achilles heel of mine, because like I shouldn't see things as a competition all the time. And I feel like that's actually hindered my progress and my growth, because I'm like, oh, so-and-so is, you know, this far ahead of me. I gotta, you know, cut some people, you know, to get to the front of the line. But everybody grows at their own pace. And that's something that I've come to learn and accept, you know, in my early 30s, that not everybody has the same journey. And it doesn't have to be a competition, because everybody's growth is different.
Oh, there's 6 different lanes on the track. You know, we're all going to have to take a lap, but some of us might just cover more distance.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's something that like I feel has hindered my progress, but like it's something that, having come to terms with it now, I feel more empowered going forward, that like I understand like it's not a competition. I shouldn't be hard on myself, because that was another thing too. Like I'd kick myself for not doing certain things by a certain age. Like, you know, when I was in high school, like I'm going to be doing this when I'm 20, I'm going to have a family by 25, you know, just.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was the exact same way.
And then I get to that point and I'm like, I actually don't want that thing. I like, there was a time where I was like, oh, I'm going to have 5 kids, 3 boys, 2 girls. And I'm like, I don't even know if I want kids right now. Like when I come home from work, I just want to just be quiet, and I don't want to have to worry about like, you know, my kid's safety. I like to be able to just shut off for a couple of hours.
I'm sure even real parents, if they're listening to this, they feel the exact same way, just they have kids.
Yeah, I don't fault anybody for having kids. It is clearly a blessing, and there's things that I wish I could do with my imaginary kids, but I know me where I am right now. kids is not a viable option. And what's funny is like at this state of my life, I thought I would have like my third kid by now.
Sure. Yeah, I feel the exact same way, but for now I'm sticking with cats and dogs.
I have two cats, yeah, and they're heartache enough. I go to the vet all the time with one of them.
See, that's what I mean. You never know.
And I never thought I'd be a cat dad either, because growing up, I was afraid of cats. I got scratched by one when I was a kid. I was allergic to them. I was like, cats are the worst. And then I don't know. I just decided, like, you know what? I don't want to really have to walk a dog in the rain. Let's get a cat.
I've had like 30 cats my whole life.
And the funny thing is, like, he's a grumpy cat. Like, he's nasty to everybody but me. So like, I feel a little special. I'm like, oh wow, I have the nasty cat that loves me.
You got a kind heart. You know, they sense that.
Yeah, I like to think that.
You definitely do. I mean, it definitely came out in this past hour, man. Like, I gotta say, I'm really excited to find out like what happens next with you, like what type of improv shows you're going to be doing, where your career is going to be leading towards. I have no doubt. I'd love to have you on the show once again, especially when you get that next big accomplishment. I always like to end the shows asking a simple question, because while I was in college, I was reading a book, The Right Words at the Right Time, and it's a collective of essays. And basically, there was always that right word at the right time that really inspired these group of politicians, celebrities, and musicians that stuck with them their whole lives. And my question to you would be, has anybody ever said the right words at the right time that have stayed alive inside of you up until this point? Or if not, do you have any words of your own?
That is a good question. I got to think about this one for a second, because a lot of the things that were said to me were said in a negative fashion at the wrong time when I was most vulnerable. So I'm trying to think of like something that was actually like uplifting. It's a tough one. I guess like just in summation, like and putting it in my words, like it's a journey, and that's something that I only came to terms with in the last 2 years. The pandemic really helped me put a pause. The pandemic was really what got things going. When everything stopped is when I was like, I got to get going. But because I had enlisted a life coach, because I was like, now is the time to like really do some introspection. And out of all of our sessions, like he would constantly like tie it back to it's a journey. Why you're rushing? It's a journey. So I'd say that those are my words for now. That my motto might change in due course, but for now, I remind myself it's a journey. It's a journey. You know, it's not everybody's the same.
No, that's life, man. It is a journey. You know, don't worry so much about the destination.
Exactly.
I got to say, Christian, Mr. Barnes, this was a great conversation, and I can't thank you enough for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. This was a good way to spend an hour and a half after work, I have to admit. I didn't know what to expect at the first podcast, but this was very enjoyable.
I hope to hear and see you on additional podcasts down the road on different shows. God willing, who knows? Like maybe you want to do a new Mr. Rogers type of show?
You know, possibly entertaining kids. Maybe not as because he had quite a way with like getting in with. I mean, like I do too, but like his style was very clean cut, and not to say that I'm not clean, but like he's just very pure. I don't.
Yeah, on like a league of his own. You know, just like the neighbor you always needed or wished you had.
I would say like my style, my humor towards kids would be like kind of like SpongeBob. Like it's fast, colorful, and I like to throw in a little humor for myself. You know, when I'm playing with them, like they don't get the reference, but I'm like, I'm just gonna do this for me.
Get the reps in, get the practice, and see you next time. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. I found out a lot of adult jokes and stuff that I grew up with as a kid. I'm like, why did they do that? Like, I didn't get it, but like as an adult, I appreciate it. Animaniacs is notorious for that.
you know, not to keep the conversation going, like hearing all the songs of the capitals, the continents, and the countries from Animaniacs, how they actually did it. It actually kind of made education a little bit more fun on how to remember your geography, you know?
That's more or less what I would want to do. I want to make education fun, and I try to do that at work, but I know that they have like a certain mindset on how to do that. I would like to have my own platform and let people come in with their own collective approach to it, and how what they expect to get out of it. Not like going to a preschool and they're like, no, this is how you're supposed to get in with a kid. And I'd like my own platform and be like, no, this is how I get in with kids.
I think education is essential, and the standard is not a standard for everybody. You know, even though it's standardized, I think it kind of isolates education and it's more of a separatism tool than anything that I've really experienced, you know, because you're not allowing somebody to, especially a parent, adapt their kid to an educational platform. You know, it's sort of like, you got to meet this criteria. It's either you're in first, second, or last place. And it seems like it's more of a race.
Yeah. And that's, again, what I'm trying to undo is not, it's not a race. You know, I could take it at my own leisure.
I'm excited and to see what you do, especially if you get more into writing and creativity, where you kind of find a new niche. Maybe when you actually take a workshop at one of these places, dude. I can't wait to find out what happens next for you.
Me too. I'm just as steeped in anticipation as you are.
Well, the next time we do have a conversation, I definitely want to meet your cats, and I'll definitely, if I can, grab one of mine. I'll introduce them to you.
Sounds good, man.
Well, Christian, thank you so much for your time. And be sure to always remember, never forget community, creativity, and joy.
Thank you.
Have a great one, man. Ciao for now.
You too.